The open endorsement of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, by former President Olusegun Obasanjo has elicited reactions from the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, and the People's Democratic Party. The APC Presidential Campaign Council described the endorsement of Obi by Obasanjo as useless, alleging that the former president hardly has strong electoral value. The PDP Presidential Campaign Council reacted in like manner, saying whether Obasanjo likes it or not, Atiku will be president in his lifetime. But the Labour Party said other former Nigerian leaders should emulate Obasanjo and endorse Peter Obi. However, the leadership of the Labour Party has saluted the courage of former President Olusegun Obasanjo for publicly endorsing his presidential candidate, Peter Obi, describing it as a worthy New Year's gift. Joining us on the show this morning to discuss Obasanjo's endorsement of Peter Obi and if it will in any way affect the party's campaigns going forward is Dele Farotimi, a legal practitioner, author, and human rights activist, and Nwaokobia, convener, Controversy Movement. Welcome to the morning show, gentlemen, and Happy New Year to both of you. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Okay, the question has already been posed in that introduction. President Obasanjo's endorsement of the Labour Party candidate. What do you make of it? What do you make of the value or non-value of that endorsement? And what is your assessment of the reactions for and against by those favored by the statement and those not favored by the statement, from the APC to the PDP to the presidency? Dele Farotimi, let me start with you, since you are joining us by Zoom, but Nwaokobia is here with us in the studio.
Good body, Doc. I would not be wishing either.
Hello, are you hearing me from the studio? I can't hear you here.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. Yeah, please go ahead.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, please go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was saying good morning, and then I was reminding you that I have no Happy New Year wishes for either yourself or any other Nigerian. I'm wishing us a year in which our brains are alive to the pains of Nigeria sufficiently so that we might focus on what is important and seek to change it for better. That is one. Now, to deal with General Obasanjo's endorsement, let me say this. I have had several occasions to quarrel with the person of General Obasanjo, but whether I like it or not, and whether anyone else likes it or not, he's a two-time president, in fact, three-time president of this country. How he performed or did not perform is the subject of history. But General Obasanjo himself is a man who is keenly aware of history, and he has sought to write that history multiple times, which is why he writes books. And we have had occasion to quarrel with some of those books. But I will say that for the first time in my lifetime, and General Obasanjo has occupied the bulk of my lifetime. It's been in my consciousness since I was in primary school. And for the first time in my life, I have occasion to agree with the Ebora Wu. And I believe that he has taken a decision that is rooted in reason and that cannot be faulted. He has written copiously as he has written in the past, but this time around, I happen to agree with him. And for the first time as well, General Obasanjo actually took responsibilities for the things he himself might have done wrong, and I believe he did a lot wrong. But he took responsibility. Now he has taken his own decision. General Obasanjo has one vote. But General Obasanjo has considerable influence within and outside Nigeria, and some people listen to him. That is the weight of his words. And he spoke those words, and he spoke them in favor of Mr. Gregory Peter Obi, endorsing him for the onerous task that is ahead. I have been heard saying severally that Nigeria has been destroyed. It has to be rebuilt, and you have to reimagine it and convince the people of the need to do so. So when you have a man like General Obasanjo, who has had his time and he has admitted to the past failings, and he comes up and he says, this is a man I'm endorsing. And then all of a sudden, you begin to hear the cackling. They are cackling like hens in hen houses. First thing is this. Yorubas will say, "Eshin ota eni ki ju pinishin lo." Your enemy's horse, his steed, is rarely ever taller than a goat. If General Obasanjo's endorsement is as worthless as they would have you believe with the bitter grapes, sour grapes that they've been spitting since yesterday, why did they go all the way to Ota and Abeokuta with their entourage? I was looking at a picture of Emilio almost prostrating for Obasanjo in his house. All of a sudden, his endorsement is worthless. It's sour grapes, and they can eat as much of it as they care. Nigerians know better. General Obasanjo is one person, but he's an important person in this country, and he has had his say. The people will still have their way. He has had his own say. The people would have their way, and it is our belief and prayer that the Nigerians will be sufficiently awakened to the need for the drastic changes that this country demands in this year. So General Obasanjo has rightly said his piece, and I agree with him completely for the first time in my life. Thank you.
Well, Chris, your take. You agree with Farotimi, who says for the first time in his life, he has had cause to share the same view with President Obasanjo?
For me, it's a bit different, Dr. Ruben, and I say this advisedly. You remember that in 2002, 2003, I was about the only person who was held in custody for the longest under Obasanjo's watch as a democratic president. But beyond that, what is important is the merits of that letter, the 6-page letter. He did talk about the need for us to reinvent Nigeria, the need for us to refix, reshape, and rework Nigeria for our collective good. And I think that's what is fundamentally important here. The letter, in the whole 6-page letter, just about 2 paragraphs were the places where he clearly endorsed Peter Obi. He did talk about the failure of state. He did talk about how Nigerians have moved from whatever you call it to hell, and how bad leadership has become, how troubling and benumbing the feats of government in the area of security has been. He did talk about the need for the young people to take back their country for good. And I think that is fundamentally what is tried, proper, and right. And I say, with respect to what my brother and friend Dele has just said, the reason he may consider this one of the most patriotic efforts is because largely every paragraph of Obasanjo's letter speaks to the issues of where we are as a nation and what must be done to fix our country. Is the endorsement laudable? Yes, it is. Remember, Dr. Ruben, remember Rufai, that a few months ago, the APC delegation went cap in hand, hands akimbo, if you like, begging for the support of the former President Olusegun Obasanjo. They went from Ota Farms to Abeokuta. They went seeking. And in one of the optics that we saw, the former president was leading the presidential candidate of the All Progressive Congress by the hand like a schoolboy. And now, because they are sore losers, remember it happened with the Afenifere. There was nothing they didn't try to polarize and mess up Afenifere, but it didn't work because the elder statesmen stood to their guns, saying that never has Nigeria as a nation been this polarized. Nigeria is worse off than it was even under the Civil War in terms of our unity as a nation. So I think that anybody who truly cares about our country, patriots and statesmen alike, will salute and celebrate what former President Olusegun Obasanjo has written. And then for those who wonder how it will help our party, I want to say clearly that since 1999, Obasanjo has been at the core of our politics and our politics, if you like. He led for 8 years and then handed over power to the late Umar Yar'Adua. And then Jonathan, he was in the picture. And his last endorsement, public endorsement of a leader, so that people don't get it very twisted, was when he openly endorsed and campaigned for Muhammad Buhari in 2014, 2015. In 2019, he wrote a letter, I think it was about a 13-page letter against the regarding the lackluster watch of Muhammadu Buhari. For most people, they consider that as an endorsement for Atiku Abubakar. But what is important here is that he has mobilized the class of the former heads of states. And what is, for a lawyer like I am, and my brother, there's something we call the Diamond's Declaration. For those who are apprehensive and worried, it comes to a point where Obasanjo is about over 84 years old. It comes to a point where you want to leave a legacy, if that's your last moment to do what is right. And he's saying simply that the time to take back our country is now. And he's writing to the youths, because the highest voter demography, those who are 45 and below, are about 60% of our voters. And he's saying to them, the time to take back your country is now. It shouldn't be a milocon. It shouldn't be about entitlement. It should be about us, our locon. And I think that letter passes as one of the most patriotic letters ever written by the former President Olusegun Obasanjo.
Thank you, Mr. Chris Nwaokobia, and also Mr. Dele Farotimi. I'd like to come to you first, Mr. Dele, because I want us to talk about the power of an endorsement. We've talked about the fact that former President Olusegun Obasanjo has come out to endorse Mr. Peter Obi of the Labour Party, and of course the Labour Party is quite excited, whilst opposition parties are not quite as excited. However, one of the things that the PDP said, which I'd like you to respond to, is that former President Olusegun Obasanjo endorsed and supported the current President Muhammadu Buhari in 2015, he lost. Supported Atiku Abubakar, he lost. And now he's supporting Peter Obi, and we're excited that what is really the power of an endorsement? What impact does it have on the chances of the Labour Party's candidate in the coming elections? And for Mr. Chris Nwaokobia, I'd like you to respond to that as well, but also speak into what you just spoke about in terms of the power of the youth, in terms of the numbers. Unfortunately, this hasn't seemed to be leveraged in the last elections, and only yesterday we were speaking to Mr. Festus Okoye of INEC, where he was speaking about the low turnout of picking up of PVCs. It's not enough to get excited or to praise the fact that young people we have the numbers if they are not actively involved in the electoral process. I'd like you to speak to that, but I'll start first with Mr. Farotimi.
Good morning, Ayo. See, my brother Nwaokobia spoke extensively to the fact that General Obasanjo's letter wasn't just about endorsing Peter Obi. So it's it's the way we are that we all, including myself, had reduced the letter to the 2 paragraphs that detailed the endorsement of Peter Obi. The importance of that letter, I believe, is that it gives a short history of the failings and failure of a state. And it then also offers hope for perhaps a rejuvenation of that same country. So I would prefer that we look at it more as a call to action than as an endorsement. But because of the question you have asked, and in order to particularize the answer, is a function of who are those who listen to General Obasanjo in Nigeria. As my brother Nwaokobia pointed out, there is a class called the owners of Nigeria. And then there are Nigerians generally. These are the people who would evaluate the value of the words spoken by General Obasanjo as he outlined the truth of our circumstances in his write-up. If he has he made the right call, even in the endorsement of Peter Obi? These are value judgments that will be made by the people of Nigeria. Ultimately, even though the class of those who consider themselves responsible for Nigeria, because they are the ones who have brought it to where it is today. And the summary given by General Obasanjo is an admission of a generational failure. Even in the face of that failing, there was also the recognition of the fact that it belongs to the youth and it is up to us. So the man is not suggesting that by his endorsement, he had somehow acquired the capacity to decree into existence a president in Aso Rock. The prerogative still resides with the Nigerian people. And that is what is important. Now, having dealt with whether the endorsement is of consequence to the people or not, we can now deal with this specificity of what had happened with his past endorsement. If the people had refused to listen to him in the past, it is demonstrative of the fact that the people thought better at that time. Pain is a consecrating agent. We have had 7.5 years of being buffeted and afflicted by the current government. The value of Obasanjo's endorsement will be determined at the polls. I have no crystal ball, but it might very well be that just as his words had resonated in me, who had rebelled against his existence all my life, I'm sure it will resonate in a lot of Nigerians as well, because he spoke the truth. The truth, you can't argue with. That is why nobody has argued with what he has said. All they have argued is the value of endorsement. Has he lied about the recap of history? They should talk to that. Has he lied about the fact that it is our country to grab and do with as we please? They should speak to that as well. But the value of his endorsement, like I have said, your enemy's horse is rarely ever taller than a goat. We thank him for his endorsement, but we thank him more for the truth that he spoke.
All right, Mr. Nwaokobia, I would like you to respond to the question as well, and youth participation in politics.
The values of the endorsement, the value is monumental, and I say this clearly. It was Rousseau who said a long time ago that truth on the scaffold, falsehood on the throne, that same truth sways the future. For behind the darkness unknown standeth God, holding watch over his own. The truth is that Obasanjo has written and spoken clear truth to power. The truth is that he has challenged young people to take back their country and take their destinies in their hands. And then it was Frantz Fanon who said that every generation out of relative obscurity discovers its mission, fulfills or betrays it. And so where are we? We're at that point where former President Olusegun Obasanjo understands that the challenge is before the young people to take back their country for good. And then the young people are listening and reading. They're watching the political evolution and involvement of political operators on the political stage. They understand that one of the 4 leading candidates can be trusted the most. And I say this without fear of querulous critics. They understand that one has said, go verify whatever I said. One has said that God will not forgive me if I don't live true to what I say on paper. And those are the things that former President Olusegun Obasanjo said in that letter. And the young people, I remember once, I had an encounter when my young daughter was graduating from Redeemers University with the present vice president of this country. And don't wonder how old I am. I'm not that old. But the truth is that the vice president called me and said, Junior, do you have a daughter who's graduating from school? I said, well, I have my daughter in my final year in the university. And he said, okay, congratulations. But what brings this to the fore here is the fact that my daughter had told me that there's nothing their generation cannot attend and attempt. All you need to do is ask them a question and give them 2 minutes. I couldn't understand that until when I looked at her and said, Daddy, ask me any question now. And that what she was trying to tell me was that they go straight to the internet and research, and in 2 minutes give you the exact or the best answer to every question. And so what Obasanjo is saying simply is, young people rise up, take back your country for good. And would that endorsement mean a lot? If it doesn't, it wouldn't be the issue. It was 2 days ago. That letter came to the fore, and it's been the #1 issue everywhere, both on the social media, on terrestrial press and online press. It's the endorsement that we're talking about. It's the endorsement that young people across the campuses, across the various places are discussing. So it is a fundamental one. Now, regarding the second leg of your question, which is, of course, what are the youth going to do with it and what INEC has said, I think that the challenge should be to INEC, because we're following the polls everywhere. And young people are stepping out and asking for their PVCs. And that's the truth. the point is that INEC should effectively inform the people as to where they can find the PVCs. And then what is wrong with INEC, since they have so much resources, using the addresses on the voter register to send these cards to the owners? That's what happens in other climes, even in Kenya here. You know, must you make everything difficult for Nigerians? As you and I talk, there are people who are at various centers where they registered, and they're asking for their PVCs. And it's either that those who run the Leviathan, are called the APC, and the Behemoth, the PDP, are deliberately trying to frustrate the process. But I think that this is a call out to INEC to ensure that they reinvent and redesign the process of ensuring that the young people are able to get their PVCs, because they are the highest voter demography, and so many of them register to vote because they want a new day and a new dawn for their country. They want to take back their country, and that's exactly where we are.
Okay. So I'd ask two questions. Number one will be, same Obasanjo has imprisoned you. Mr. Farotimi never agreed with Obasanjo. With this endorsement now, does it make him a hero? That's number one. Number two will be the role of, and which is very sad in the first place to say, I cry in my heart saying this, will be the role of the other owners of Nigeria. The prominent people that, apart from politicians, when they go to Ota to see Obasanjo, they go to Mina to see some other people, you know. Also, what will be the role? Is this him speaking for them or him speaking for himself? Because there are reports of probably a division and a tilt towards these tribal lines. Is this a holistic, endorsement by the other owners of Nigeria? What is the intrigue and dynamics being played out there? And we all know these people, which is also a sad reminder of the country we live in. I'll start with you first, and Mr. Derek Farotimi will answer those two questions. Number one, does it make him a hero now all of a sudden? Have you forgiven him for locking you up? And all of that. Then the dynamics of the other owners of Nigeria, which we cannot pull out from our politics.
Right. The first thing is, the name of my movement is Country First. It will always be Country First. For me, I have looked at the merits of his letters, like I did look at the merits of his letter to Buhari in 2018, 2019. I think that largely Obasanjo has always, some have called him a good letter writer, but he's always worn this garb of a patriot and a statesman. Regarding whether it makes him a hero, I have a big problem with giving that cliche or adulation to anybody in this country, because this country is the greatest country under heaven, and if you have had the opportunity to superintend over this country and not make it so wonderful, then I have a worry, I have a quarrel with you. But has his endorsement spoken to the issues? Yes, profoundly. Would it help the young people rise to assess and discuss the issues and perhaps get involved? The answer is yes. How well does it help our nation to rediscover itself? I think that fundamentally, like you noted, the other quote and unquote owners of Nigeria or former leaders of Nigeria will perhaps take cue, because there comes a point in the life of a nation where you must do something to perhaps redeem your past or make right the morrow. And I think that this is the most halcyon opportunity for everyone who at some point has been involved in the story called Nigeria. I think that this is a redemptive moment, like my mentor Martin Luther King Jr. would say. It comes to a point where even the devil and the saints will aggregate at that ceasefire zone where the common good becomes the summum bonum. And I mean effectively at this trajectory where everything is gone kaput, where the standard of living is gone from top to bottom, where nothing appears to be working, where the educational system has gone comatose, where our economy is on a consistent somersault, where the fear queues have returned endlessly, where the people who manage our economy appears unable to address the fundamental issues of nationhood. I think that anybody who truly thinks well and means well for Nigeria would align with the call to a new day, the call for a new day and a new deal in this country. And that's why, for me, it's not about forgiving the former president for putting me in custody. It's about nudging and urging our people to do what is proper, right and right, in nudging and urging our people to take back their country for good, and our young people precisely to do what is right. Use your thumb and pull through this peaceful ballot-based revolution, because that's what we have on our hands. It's a sweating harmattan calling for a new day and a new deal.
Forgive him, yes or no?
Yes, I have. Long time.
Okay.
I forgave him the very year I came out of custody.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Dele Farotimi, your take on these two issues. Is he now a hero? And what are the other owners of Nigeria? What's the read about that? The other owners of Nigeria? Because, like I said, there's still the sentiment of religion and tribe.
If you would recall, my initial response was that Obasanjo is paying a penance to history by the letter he wrote and the endorsement it contained. That would suggest that I am not interested in heroifying the man. But the man has done something right, and I agree completely with what he has done. Now, Nigeria has a pantheon of heroes that is almost completely empty. The halls are empty. There aren't too many people sat in that place because very few people have covered themselves in glory when it comes to Nigeria. If General Obasanjo and others who have brought Nigeria to where it is today, because we are not here by accident, we are here by design and by the carelessness of those who had ruined this country in place of ruling it or leading it. So if we have come to an inflection point where it has become patently clear to all, I have spoken variously on your platform. I've spoken to the unsustainable place that Nigeria has found itself. That means that it behoves every Nigerian, whether those be people with whom we have agreed in the past or those with whom we have been at war, when we've come to the understanding of the strategic importance and we can agree on a common purpose, we must of necessity work together. So whether those be former heads of state or whether those be Wasiu on the street, it doesn't matter. At this point, we need to get out of the mess we are in. Obasanjo does not become a hero for me, but he has done something to be commended in this moment. Now, what happens to make him a hero or a villain will be a function of the totality of the life he would have lived and that I would have lived. Well, that is what would determine what anyone becomes. Now, to deal with the more specific case of the other rulers of Nigeria, this, as you have said, is a painful situation in which we have found ourselves, where we aggregate the ownership of a country to persons. But the beauty of the Obi candidacy is that if Nigerians are to ever become, if Obi will win, Nigerians would have to have become citizens. They would have to have taken ownership of their country. It cannot be handed to Obi by some owners of Nigeria. It will take Nigerians, the youth, those to whom tomorrow belongs. They told me all these years, you are the leaders of tomorrow. I'm going to be 55 this year. I'm not the leader of anything. There is nothing to lead. It's already been ruined, almost beyond redemption. So it is those to whom tomorrow belongs, those in their 20s, 30s, perhaps early 40s, they have to consider this coming election as the opportunity to take their country back, make it their own. The world has become a global village, and they don't want to continue living like this. They cannot continue to outsource the ownership of their motherland to those who are now in their 80s. I'm not even, Baba Obasanjo might even be in his 90s, if the truth be told. And then we are now waiting. They can't be the ones who tell us what to do. They might tell us the truth, and we deduce those truths from our own experiences. They can point in the direction to us, and our facts and realities should tell us when they are telling us the truth. So whatever any other owner of Nigeria might care to say, whether they agree with General Obasanjo or they disagree with him, we are the ones who have to agree with the evidences of our senses and do the right thing in the coming election.
Okay, gentlemen, we have just about 3 minutes to go. But there's one part of the statement by President Obasanjo where he talked about state failure. And Nwaokobia, you referred to that. And he was saying that the Buhari administration has taken Nigerians from the mountaintop to the valley and has turned Nigeria into hell on earth. Of course, Garuba Shehu disagrees. And he has issued a statement to that effect. But what do you think? You have been on this scene since the Buhari administration began. Are you in the valley or you are on the mountaintop? And the same question also for you, Dele Farotimi. Briefly, on both sides. Let's start with you, Chris.
Clearly, Dr. Ruben, it's not about me here, because I may have been working harder than I worked before now. The truth is that as a nation, we're at the valley. As a nation, we're the nadir. As a nation, things aren't working, and we know it. Dr. Ruben, regarding security, since this administration, the highest number of Nigerians have been murdered. And we have the highest number of IDPs under Muhammad Buhari's administration. The Naira against the dollar, the Naira is on a free fall. Dr. Ruben, we never had about 8 straight months of strike under an administration. Throughout the PDP watch, it was about 40 months of strike, throughout 16 years. Under President Muhammadu Buhari, 7 years, over 30 months of ASU strike. So it's about a government that has lost it completely and the values are gone down the drain. So are we at the valley? Yes, we are, from top to bottom. And that was what he promised. We didn't ask him what it actually meant. We didn't know that it was going to be a free fall. But as I talk to you today, what is important is for Nigerians to push for a new day. And that's what that letter speaks to. And that's what we're asking the Nigerian people to do. Come along with the Labour Party and Peter Gregory Obi. Let's redeem and take back our country.
Well, Dele Farotimi, your turn. Are you in hell on earth, in the valley, or you are on the mountaintop?
Doc, they say to be forewarned is to be forearmed. February 7, 2015, The Guardian published the article that titled my first book, Do Not Die in Their War. I want all of you, all Nigerians, I told you exactly what will happen under General Buhari, and it happened. He has surpassed each and every one of my expectations of him. And then after that, I was on here variously on your platform. I pointed out the fact that Nigeria is at war and the enemies of Nigeria are sat in the presidency. That Nigeria is actively being destabilized from within the presidency. I went on to point out what Commodore Olawumi had told all of us on national television. I went on to equally point out the fact that Malami admitted to having the names of terrorists handed over to him by the UAE. I have pointed out serially the nepotism that has attended the governance of this country under General Buhari. The ruination of Nigeria is not to be argued about, and Shekere Garuba can say anything he cares to say. The evidence of our eyes, our pockets, the people have had to bury, the ransoms that has impoverished people. Please, the evidence are clear, and we can only thank God that at least we have almost seen the end of his reign. So let nobody be in any doubt as to the exact ruination of Nigeria. We are not in any valley. We are in a hole. The only thing that hasn't happened is that we'll be covered. This man has ruined this country. Let's just pray he won't be the last president and we're able to have a successful transition to power so that we can bid him goodbye.
Well, on that note, I would like to thank you, Dele Farotimi, for joining us on the morning show, and you too, Chris Nwaokobia. Thank you very much for your time and insight.